recapping another busy week of prep sports. It's High School Sports Talk on ESPN Radio 94.1.
It's ESPN Radio 94.1, High School Sports Talk, presented by Larry King Law and VirginiaPreps.com. With the coach, Ed Young, I am Matt Hatfield. And Ed, we have a special guest with us. He is the new head football coach of the Grafton Clippers out in the Bay Rivers District. We say good morning and congrats to Errold Cobbins. Coach, thank you for coming on the program. How's this first Saturday of August treating you?
It's great, man. The weather's great. We're coming off 2 days of practice, and I've honestly been pleasantly surprised with the attitudes and efforts of our kids. So it's a great day for me. Woke up on the right side of the bed this morning.
Oh, that's good to hear. Well, let's fill the folks in on your background. Tell us about your biography, if you will, your playing days, high school, college, where you coached before Grafton, and what drew you to this position with the Clippers. Got
you. Well, I actually never played college ball. I'm one of those guys that's right here from York County. My father was in the Air Force, so we moved here. I think I was in the middle school, got here and just stayed and just made it my home. So I ended up playing for Hovis, Hunt, and Coach Walton out at Tab. I graduated back in 94 and actually went back and started coaching under Hovis when I was going to CNU down the street. From there, I coached a little bit of football, staying at Tab. When Hovis stepped down and Coach Lawson came on board, I got the opportunity to coach under Coach Walton at Grafton. Coached there at the middle school for a few years, went up to the high school, coached as an assistant under Montini and Van Acker. Then took a professional job outside of the state and moved out to Pennsylvania. And while I was out there, wound up coaching at a little high school called Northgate High, right outside of Pittsburgh in Allegheny County. Moved back to Virginia probably around 2015, 2016, and picked up a spot working with the middle school there at Tab. This position became open, and based on my, based on my understanding of the area, the schools, my previous exposure at Grafton, I was there for about 10 years between the middle school and high school. Just became the right opportunity at the right time. I wish I would have been able to be hired a little earlier in the off season, but things happen as they're supposed to, and you just make the most of it.
Errold Cobbins, our guest here on ESPN Radio 94.1. It's High School Sports Talk presented by VirginiaPreps.com as the Grafton Clippers open up the 2019 campaign on August the 30th at home against Churchland. Ed?
Hey, Coach, congrats on the position there. Ed Young here. Two things. First of all, I want to, when you said Northgate, Pennsylvania, I'm originally from Pennsylvania, Central PA, not too far from Pittsburgh. Western Pennsylvania football up there is a religion. As we talked with Coach Bugs earlier about Penn State football up there. First, I would like for you to compare that style of football up there to here. And then after that, if you would, I know you got the job late, and that's the second thing that caught my attention. So what are maybe a couple things that you feel have to be important for you to get done right now as the season draws close?
Okay. Well, to address your first question, the biggest difference by and large that I see between, Western PA and I'll focus right here in this part of the seven cities as far as York County and so on and so forth. It's not so much, obviously there's different styles of play, but it's more so in the kids. The student athletes up there, I think somebody mentioned it on this call, it's really, football is like a religion. It's something that is talked about, focused on 365, 24/7. And a lot of the kids are multi-sport athletes, but even those multi-sport athletes, they're always plugged in and engaged in some way, shape, or form with football. Here, my experience here is the kids have so many different options and so many other things. And from a cultural standpoint, football specifically, I'll say York County, has not been as big of a focal point as you might have seen in the late 80s, early 90s. You go to a game on a Friday night and you take a look at the stands and you can see there's not as much general interest in the area. And it just is what it is. I can't explain why it is like that. It is what it is. And I'm sorry, what was that second question?
First of all, Coach, that's a good point on that, because I've been told by coaches that have done that area and here pretty much the same. You're right on point about how much more serious it's taken there, where a lot of the games stands are almost fully attended. So you were right on point with that comparison. Now, obviously, getting this job a little bit later than what you'd like to, you can't maybe do a whole lot of things as necessary, but you got to do what you got to do. What were some of the key points that you wanted to instill in this program to put your thumbprint on it?
Well, day one, looking at the challenge that's in front of myself and my coaches, we were trying to connect with as many kids as possible. That's probably one of our biggest challenges right now. Is just general numbers. But from the standpoint of putting my fingerprint on the program itself, it's getting in and setting an expectation of how we're going to do what we do, regardless of what that is. And we had some conversations, we as in my coaching staff, with the kids, and they watch TV on Saturdays, they watch TV on Sundays, and everybody compares and sees what's being done across the nation on television, so on and so forth, and what other schools are doing, and trying to get these guys to look intrinsically and focus on the things that they can control, and understand that there's 1,000 different ways to do something, and it's not necessarily what you do, but it's more so how you do it that defines you, and it's going to make the defining factor as to what your success level is. I think those are probably the two most important points. We started practice Thursday this week, and I actually had the kids come in for 2 days. We had a morning practice and an evening practice, and that morning practice on both Thursday and Friday, we never hit the field. I had been, I guess it was 3 weeks ago, hired. So a good number of these kids I hadn't been able to set eyeballs on. So our first 2 hours were spent just trying to get to know one another. I had some icebreakers going into the first practice. Just trying to get them to know who I was, get an understanding of who they were, and trying to figure out what's the best way to motivate them, because every kid's a little bit different. And at the end of the day, if all these kids aren't on the same page and trying to fight for the same thing, we're going to have bigger challenges. So we try to minimize those challenges and get everybody working together. And I think if we can do that, we should see some success.
Chatting with Errold Cobbins. He's the new head football coach of the Grafton Clippers, our guest here on ESPN Radio 94.1 on High School Sports Talk, presented by VirginiaPreps.com. And, Coach, I know you hit the ground running late here, and certainly, though, some talented players in the hallways at Grafton High School. Who are some names we should watch out for this coming season and beyond?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Well, even though we've only had practice for 2 days, we've had some weightlifting sessions, so on and so forth. I can tell you I'm looking for big things from a young man by the name of Isaiah Smith, one of our 4 seniors coming back. He's about 5'10", 180, defensive back, running back, great attitude, great energy, a quiet kid. He comes across extremely humble, but he's one of those kids that I think will lead by example. KJ Davis, a little bit smaller in stature, but he's got a lot of speed. I've got a Max Schrummel, who I think is going to be one of our more versatile players. We're looking at him playing a couple of different positions offensively as well as defensively. I've got Sam Bustamante, my only senior offensive and defensive lineman. I'm looking at him to lead that line group. I've got a couple of juniors that are stepping into some shoes. Rocco Hahn, for one, tight end linebacker, great attitude, came in ready to work, sets a good example and a good tone by what he does on the field in terms of his effort. Let me think, who else do we have out there?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of names, Coach. That's a lot of names. I mean, are you more junior heavy, sophomore heavy? How's the makeup looking in terms of the whole group?
Oh, man. This varsity squad has 4 seniors right now, and I think we're sitting at 11 juniors. So, when I say numbers is probably our biggest challenge and biggest barrier, my JV and varsity squads combined are sitting right at 32 kids. And so from a coaching standpoint, we are anticipating that we'll get a handful of kids coming in next week that we know are out of town, spending time with another parent or what have you. But our numbers are going to be low, and that's just the reality of where we sit. We're going to do what we can between now and the season opener to try to increase that. But our focus is going to be with our kids in our locker room and trying to get them ready. So we're definitely, between the seniors and juniors, obviously we've got more juniors. We've got a boatload of sophomores. I think we're sitting at 12 or 14 sophomores. Interesting thing is I've got, of my 15 upperclassmen, I think 2 or 3 of them have never played football before. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun, but it'll be interesting.
And before we let you run, Coach, we appreciate the time and look forward to seeing how the Clippers grow under your watch here. Tell us about the scrimmages and what you want to see before you get to that game number 1 on August 30th.
Well, we've got 2 scrimmages on the calendar so far. We've got Gloucester coming up, I want to say on the 16th. And then we've got Verona coming up the week after that. I want to say it's a Thursday, the 22nd. Our approach from a coaching standpoint is we're preparing for our season opener. We want to see our kids come out and be competitive. I want to see how they respond at game speed. I want to see how they respond to those inevitable switch of momentum type plays. Obviously, we have a practice plan and we go through some of this in practice, but you never really know until you get into the throes of it all how the kids are truly going to respond. And so our goal is just to prepare them as best as we can as coaches. But I'm anticipating that we'll come out and be competitive. The biggest thing in looking at my group is making sure we've got our kids in the right positions first and foremost. And like I said, I've got 2 or 3 that seem to have skill sets that lend themselves to a variety of different spots and trying to fit them in where they benefit the team most and get their buy-in. Some of them may be in positions they may not have envisioned themselves in. So it may be a challenge for a young man internally, but we're going to work through them with that. But yeah, just coming out and being competitive and seeing how they respond to game-like situations on the fly. That's what I'm really interested to find out.
Well, Coach, thank you so much for the time this morning. Congrats again on the position, and I'm sure we'll keep in touch, all right?
Definitely. I appreciate y'all having us on.
You bet.
Good luck to you, Coach.
Thanks.
Errold Cobbins, new head football coach of the Grafton Clippers up in Yorktown, our guest here on High School Sports Talk, presented by VirginiaPreps.com on ESPN Radio 94.1. They open up the season on August the 30th against a much-improved Churchland team. We'll take a timeout. Denny Dodson coming up from Woodside High School on your home for sports, high school, college, pro. We have it all on ESPN Radio 94.1.